Do you ever wonder what interior designers really think about the DIY world? Pinterest boards, HGTV, all of it has these real unrealistic aspects of interior design. So today we're going to break down the truth about pitfalls, trends, anything that has to do about interior design, your home, or even your business. So whether you're looking for an interior designer to work with or you're trying to do it all yourself, today's episode, I think you're really going to learn a lot. Stay tuned. Welcome to episode number 3. We are going to talk about interior design in a DIY Pinterest world. Have you ever wondered what interior designers think of HGTV and your Pinterest board? In this episode, we break down the truth about the pitfalls and trends, whether you are working with an interior designer or doing it all yourself. You're doing it all yourself, you definitely want to join this discussion. I think we got a lot of stuff to really talk about because we have seen it both professionally and privately, kind of working through different projects that we've had and trying to assist our clients as well as possible, being that they wanted everything from us or they wanted the bare minimum. And I think, especially whenever we were working together, we saw a lot of that. So I think that it's going to be a good discussion. And do you want to talk about kind of your interior design background? Because we both started with the interior design school. We were at the Art Institute of Atlanta in the early 2000s. And we had a really tough curriculum. It was very technical. What was some of your favorite classes? And what's your favorite class and what was your hardest class?
Ooh, honestly, it's all such a blur.
It's
I
been
want
a while, plus it was quite stressful.
it was
Mm-hmm.
because everything was like bam, 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 bam.
It really was.
One after another, and so let's see. I really loved the specialty class we had.
Like retail
Uh,
design?
yeah, and I
Yeah.
think that was with
Mm-hmm.
um, uh, Ken. What was his name? I forgot his name.
Ashburn? Ashbourne?
Oh yeah, Ashford.
Yeah.
Yes, with the bow tie.
Yes, the bow tie. He was awesome. Jeff. Jeff?
No, no, Jeff
Mm.
Black. Um,
No, he did the drafting.
yeah,
I did
he was
drafting
very
with him.
cool. Oh
Yeah.
my
He
God,
was cool.
I drove me batty. I could never get the um line weights down.
Oh, you're talking about hand drafting.
Yes,
Yes.
that was a killer. That
It's an
class,
art form. It really is an art form.
yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that was my worst. I would say that would be my worst because I still have trauma from that.
Was it
I
that
did
bad?
yes, because all that vellum I used, I know I
Yeah.
done used at least about 500 trees from
Yeah.
vellum. And vellum is not cheap.
No. But remember the ink pens that they told us to get, and it was like $150 for this ink set, and it would get clogged up on the mylar.
All the time.
And you're like, why? And so we ended up using the cheaper little felt pens that had like the line weight pack. And that's
Yes.
what we all ended up using. And I'm like, I just invested like $150 in this ink set that I can't
Mhm.
use. I was so, and then that's whenever I decided, oh, I think I'm gonna like try to find alternatives to things. That's like all of
Right.
the textbooks and stuff we had to get. Is we never used them.
Mm-mm.
We never used them. And the only book that I found that was extremely useful, but yet not required, was the Time Savers book for interior designers.
Yeah. Or
I still
as
have
they
that.
the Bible, the silver,
Yes,
the
the silver Bible. Yep.
silver Bible. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know why I
Yep.
can't say that. Silver Bible.
But yeah, that
But
one I gave that to my, like every intern I've ever had. I give them the Time Saver silver Bible. Yep. because I
And
was
it's
like, this is the only one you need.
yeah, and it's still keeping its retail price. I think back then it was like almost $400, and that was a lot back then. And
Yeah.
like right now, I wanted to get it for kind of like memorabilia, because I
Hmm.
was using yours as a libraries. Come on, let's be honest.
But look,
I was
that's what it needed to do.
a
That was wise.
if it wasn't used, because I didn't realize how expensive that school was.
Hmm.
I was fighting so bad not to go into SCAD,
Hmm.
the Savannah College of Art and Design, because it's near my area. And so I was fighting so bad to not go there. And I wanted to kind of like break out and um, be elsewhere and not be in a city where I grew up. I
Hmm.
think we should have a separate talk on that, Brandy, as far
Yeah.
as for back home and your experiences of moving back home and what brought you back home since that
Yeah.
experience. Those who move away
Hmm.
and come back.
Yeah. Because I never thought I would.
Right.
But
And here we are,
so,
right?
so one of my okay, so that was one that you really liked. What about one? Okay, you so the hand drafting was like your hardest one.
Yeah, and I think that's because we all first started out with that, and then the smudging with that lead.
Yeah.
Because I when I draw, I'm very heavy handed.
Uh
And
huh.
so we use the mechanical pencil. Um, and then how he would tell us how to drag the pencil along. Make sure
Hmm.
you're rotating it while as you go. And
Yeah,
so that
because you had to do that twist thing. Yeah.
yeah,
It wasn't
it
just draw the line. You had to like twist
right,
while you drew the line. Yeah.
right. And
It
I'm
was
the
it's
kid
yeah, it's an art
that
form.
it is an art form. And I'm the kid that don't like to draw inside of the lines. You get what I'm saying? So like I could never draw a straight line ever. And when I did, it like took up 80 sheets of vellum. And then like the line weights. So
Uh-huh.
and I think that was like my first semester there. It's to me that class was very like daunting to me due to the fact, as I mentioned, being poor and on a budget in an art school. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Not having a
Yes.
proper, I didn't think it through and didn't have the proper, the tools that needed the draft desk. That flipping draft desk was very expensive back then. It's
Yeah, the
like
portable one. Mm-hmm.
$4. Yeah. And it's still expensive now. If you could probably
Mm-hmm.
find one on like Amazon. Now, if Amazon was around when we was there, I think I would
Yes.
have been.
Uh-huh.
But it
Because there was other versions, and you didn't have to go to a little technical shop in the middle of Atlanta and with all the architects and everything that were okay with spending thousands of dollars on supplies.
right, not to mention the overpriced bookstore that was there
Mm-hmm.
um, in in the school that I got most of my supplies from.
Me
If it
too. Yeah.
wasn't, it was Dick Blick's, but it had everything. It literally had everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there was another one where we would go to that's like Midtown, and it had a lot of good things too. That was a really
Mm.
good store. You know what I'm talking about? Over there near.
Yeah. I can't remember the
I
names of them. Yeah. So I think my favorite class, surprisingly, was advanced residential because we were dealing with a it was an aging couple that was going into an assisted living facility,
mm,
and we
yeah,
had to we someone else made the client for us, and then we had to
yeah,
pull in, and that was like the first time really dealing with like budgeting and a
mm-hmm,
specific client. And so we had not only the actual design of the redoing the condo space, but also doing the specifications. It was a lot more like I could see the full project, and I
mm-hmm,
enjoyed that a lot. I don't even remember the teacher. I don't even remember. She was younger,
mm-hmm.
quite serious, but I know she gave a lot of good feedback. Um, and she was impressed with my stuff, and so that always made me feel good. So that was like one of my
Right.
favorites. Um, then My worst one was definitely codes the first time I took it because I
Oh,
ended up withdrawing. But then I
me too.
figured out like a thing with him. It was the because it was I withdrew the first time,
Uh-huh.
and because I was like extremely stressed and I could already tell like I was not going to do good in this class, so I withdrew from it, and then I retook it, and I knew just enough to answer some of the questions that he originally asked, and I knew he was going to ask these questions, and
Uh,
so I raised my hand like first up, and I started answering the questions, and then he asked me if I worked in interior design, and I was doing my internship at that time. And so I
mm,
told him, yeah, I did and everything. After that, I was golden. Like it didn't matter if I got something wrong or whatever. He was fine with it. He was golden. Like it was like you had to like get that little
yeah.
good part with him. If you were on his good side, then you got more information whenever you would ask a question. But if you weren't on his good side and you asked a question, it was like, no, this is not gonna fly. But yeah, I think that was like my worst one is the coding. But I did like advanced residential and the specialty design with the retail design was a lot of fun. And another one that I absolutely loved, and I wish I could actually make it come true, was our advanced commercial where we did the um, the hotel design. I don't know
Mm.
if you were in there with me, but I did. My design was based off of old Hollywood, and I did a black and white design with like only a little bit of pops of color, and it was
Oh,
very like Art Deco, old Hollywood, where it had its own like little stage and restaurant downstairs, and I had in my mind like the Gene Kelly movies, all the inspiration that we took from all of the classics we did was I took like a design motif off of a door panel that was in White
mm.
Christmas, and like I had so much fun with that, and I wish that I could have redone that design at an old hotel down here that was dilapidated, and it has just recently got renovated, and I'm so excited it has. But it stayed just dilapidated for so long that I thought that they were about to tear it down. And that's all I could think of was like, no, I have the perfect design for this. I have the perfect design for it. And I wanted to do it so bad. I even like sent a letter to the people who bought it, and I was like, hey, if you if you need an interior design, I will totally do this for free. But they had already had like it was a whole big group that bought it and designed it. They had their
Oh,
own people. But yeah, I wanted to so bad. So some statistics that I found with
mm-hmm.
interior design is that, obviously uh it is mostly women, mostly white women, with African American being right behind, and then it goes into Asian and all of that. So it is definitely a woman's domain.
Mm.
But I've noticed that when men get involved, they get paid more.
Yeah.
So, and they get taken seriously faster. So when women do it, it's like, oh, they're decorators. When men do it, it's, oh, they're designers. And a lot of people don't understand the difference between that. When you explain to somebody what the difference is between a decorator versus a designer, how do you explain it?
I do more like comparisons of um like a doctor of some sort, like a
Mm-hmm.
doctor versus nurse practitioner or a doctor's aide because like there's that additional training that's needed, and of course there's the licensing that differentiates the professions. So I try to like compare it to those. um, I think that interior designers would be like a nurse practitioner because we assist with everything in as far as for interior work. Like a nurse practitioner, she can write prescriptions and things like that. We can do drafts and everything like that interiorly for that. But if there's needing of surgery or if there's needing of anything, that would kind of correlates with an architect. You
Yeah, it's
know,
totally not our realm.
it's not our
Uh-huh.
realm, and
Mm-mm.
sometimes, not a whole lot of times, but sometimes, you know, the architect, specialize in engineering and they can do it all, but you still gonna need that engineer, which will be, a different thing on its own.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I use to let people know, kind of let them know that we are professionals, we're
Mm-hmm.
trained, we're licensed. Well, some of us, not all of us,
Not all
but
of us.
but that we have that schooling, we have that degree,
Mm-hmm.
in regards of, you know, as far as for our expertise.
I try to pull it down a little bit further. So if you look at, like, say, a nail tech, like if you're doing someone fake nails and stuff, is
Mm-hmm.
okay. The last little part, that part where you put polish on a nail, that's the decorator. But if you're
Oh,
actually doing the structure of the nail, then that's the designer. That's
mm-hmm.
generally how it. Because I'm like, okay, well, what's something that people can actually relate to is like how, because they understand the difference between putting polish on the
Yeah.
nail versus actually putting new nail, like fake nails on, and it's like we deal with the structure side of it to a certain degree, but we understand our boundaries of, okay, we can't just change up everything within the space, but we have to talk with an architect or engineer about if we really want to completely, we can't say, hey, I want this open concept. We got to get rid of this wall. And there's a lot
No.
of people that will just like start tearing down a wall thinking that, oh, I want this open. It's like, no, no, that could be like your whole roof coming down on top of you. And
Right.
with the decorating side of it, is that's probably the last 10 to 20% of our project is that decorating side of it. It's that polishing up, and making everything come together. It's
Mm-hmm.
important. It is important. It's not unimportant at all, but it is not the entire project. So when people think of interior design, I think they automatically go into putting pillows on couches and paint on walls, and that's
Right.
it. And you're like, no, 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 it's so much more. And I honestly didn't realize it before I really went in. Whenever I was in middle school, I watched
Mm-hmm.
Designing Women, and
Oh,
since
when I was
then it was I wanted to be an interior designer. So middle school, I wanted to be an interior designer, and it was because of Designing Women, and I just had in my head that that was gonna be my life, and it was kind of a shocker whenever we really started getting into it. When I started looking at interior design schools, trying to
mm-hmm.
figure out what I wanted, that's when I started realizing the difference, because there was so many of them that did more of like a fine arts degree where you did like more painting and color theory and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking to do more of like the plans and space planning, because I feel like that's probably one of my strengths is the space planning side of it. And so I was looking more into that. And when I found the Art Institute of Atlanta's curriculum, I was like, this is the one, because it was very technical. I would venture to say it was a little too technical sometimes, because we would get burnout on all of that because your creativity couldn't really flow. And I know I had to take a semester off and kind of go back to junior college and get a little bit more uh, creativity based classes so that I could kind of revamp and uh, get back into it, because it was very technical. And but yeah, I think that whenever I talk to people about the differences, is they don't no one understands the difference
Right.
between a decorator and a designer.
Right. And that tends to happen too. And even sometimes when you do explain it to them, they're still like, okay, you're still a,
Mm-hmm.
high price decorator.
Yeah, yeah. And you'll always have those ones that do that. Now, thinking about the price and stuff, is that most people will look at interior design as a luxury. So
Mm-hmm.
the most interior designers will find jobs in California and Florida. I can
I can
see
see
that.
that.
But
I,
it's vastly different with the interior designers can start off at 25,000 a year and go up to 86,000 a year. And honestly, I could see that because we tend to, and a lot of the research I found talked about the interior designer's tasks tend to be unvalued as people turn to YouTube DIY avenues. And
mm,
when they do that, they start to limit themselves by what can be done versus what they've seen. And if you hire an interior designer, you're getting a lot more than just picking out what people have already done in magazines and on Pinterest, and pinned and all the trends that's going around. So when you hire an interior designer, it really starts to focus your design and then their needs. Because your needs might not be shiplap on a wall when you've
I,
got like 10 kids or, or you're building an office space for, a specific clientele and you're trying to do what's in style. I hated that whenever people would say, well, what's in style right now? I'm like, no, I'm not designing this to in style. I want to know what you love. I want to know what
right,
you love because in 10 years you'll still, at least a piece of you will still love it. And you won't
right.
need to renovate completely if you still love it. But if you do what's on trend, in 2 years you're going to be like, what's next? Now I have to redo everything.
It's you spent all that money just to be within the trend of something that fades away. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just trying to see what was so like trendy that is just like when we were coming up. It's
Espresso wood, dark trim,
yeah.
accent walls, basically like red and blues, those accent walls.
Oh, accent.
Terrazzo, the
Yeah.
Tuscan look.
Uh huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. The stucco
Mm-hmm.
like walls and the textured walls.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Very
big.
dated right now. Very dated right now.
But that's actually coming back. I've seen it a little. Um, they're trying to bring that back. The textured walls, the
They're
textured
trying
look.
to.
Hmm.
They're trying
But
to. Yeah.
you're like, I did that like 20 years ago.
I know. But that's the thing. I mean, clothing, it all comes back around, but it's only like an
Right.
essence of it. It's not the original.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I want to
Yeah.
say too, like, a lot of that log lounge, big furniture that
Mm-hmm.
was like really big back then.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
it went into the very minimalist, very clean lines. So like, what is that? Design within reach was like really big then.
Yeah. Design.
Um,
That's
and
coming back.
yeah, it's coming back. Which a lot of those are classics. They're gonna keep coming back.
Yeah.
They're gonna
I,
they're gonna find like a new hit, like a new
right.
stronghold. Mm-hmm.
That Ames chair,
Oh
that's
yeah.
like a little black dress.
Yes.
It's not, it's never
One
gonna.
day I won't have all the kids on it, and I will love to have one. One day.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
mhm,
But yeah, my 3-year-old will get on it right now and completely ruin it. And so it
mhm,
was, yeah, that can't happen. But so I had a client that was doing a showroom, and he was planning on doing like all these like big boards with all of it because he did like concrete, decorative concrete, and so he was going to do all these boards and stuff, and he was trying to do the design of his space. And when I talked to him about doing everything, one thing that he said to me after I kind of gave him my ideas was, you just saved me like thousands of dollars
yeah,
because you've pared down what I was going to do and made it more efficient. And
mhm,
that like stuck with me because I was like, that is what we do. That's why you hired me. And a lot of people think that, well, I can't afford to hire an interior designer. but yet they don't look at the big picture of saying, okay, why would I need an interior designer for this? What can they do for me that I can't do myself?
Right.
Yeah, and I know you hit a lot of it whenever it was, especially the restaurant design that you did, that
Yeah.
you were like trying to do the franchise work,
Right.
and you did it from top to
Uh,
bottom,
I gave him what
and
he wanted.
mm-hmm,
Yeah. And so, it was always trying to cut corners with it
mm-hmm,
too, or, thinking that, well, um, he wanted to do his restaurant where it was a barbecue place. And then he also wanted a fryer and all this other things. And he was like, well, we'll just get one here and there. And you like, well, it's not going to be the functioning kitchen you think,
mm-hmm,
that you should have. And he ended up not getting half of the stuff that we suggested, which is fine. It's just that you're not going to have that result you were thinking that you were going to have.
mm-hmm,
Uh, so it
yeah.
was a lot of, and I think too, you told me because I never got a chance to see it after. Like he had like grills on the outside or something like that. I don't know if you said it.
No, what he did is they didn't want to wait 2 weeks for some of the items to come in that were specified by you.
Right.
And so him and his wife just went and grabbed like new paint, new lighting that was on the spec list.
Mm-hmm.
And we couldn't put in our portfolio because of that last 10%. That last
Right.
10% was ruined it. It ruined it. But you did from the ground up, and you designed that kitchen, and you're looking at the kitchen and space plan, and you're trying to do the best design, the most functional design, efficient design. And when you set that up for a client and you're thinking, okay, well, I've done all the research on it. It's up to them to
Right.
actually put it together and do it. And that's really one thing that we could talk about in a little bit. But the installation side of it is a lot different than the original design. And
Yeah.
so when you go in, you really need the same interior designer to come back in and help you kind of put it all together. Um, a lot of designers will make it to where you could do it yourself. They'll design it to where it shows you what to do, but at the same
Right.
time, to have them come in and like actually finish it makes the world of difference to actually that big reveal. But yeah, you worked from like bottom to top with it. Beautiful design, well thought out. You made it ready for a franchise. All the spec books, everything was in there. And the last 2 weeks and 10% of the job made it to where we couldn't even use it in our portfolio. It was just completely, the overall, the polish on it looked way different than what you originally designed. But yeah, it
Yeah.
was. But once you start adding and taking away, like especially like in a kitchen design, a commercial kitchen design, you start
Yeah.
adding and taking away, like if in a small thin space, like what happens within that functionality is railings don't add up, tabletops don't, you have gaps, you have misuse of space, you have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of things go wrong whenever you get away from that design, or you kind of like immediately change something. It was
Yeah.
yeah.
And so at first he wanted a big walk-in freezer and walk-in refrigerator, but he noticed how much that was going to be, so he ended up getting um, the commercial fridges and the commercial freezers, the side by sides.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was a lot of modifications
Mm-hmm.
with the project, even
Yeah.
after so. And so even with the modifications, I think that's the hardest thing about being a designer, because like you put your best with the first initial designs with a client, and um you tell them everything, and you tell them the cost, and they're like, well, this is a little higher than I expected, and then you do those modifications. And so like that initial dream that you had for the client kind of like shifts a little, and it kind of like your hopes for that project, or what you thought they would be perfect for just doesn't work out, and so you have to think of a plan B or C or Z. Because
Z, yeah. We've gotten down to Z before. Yes, I agree. And
but
what people don't understand is whenever you have those modifications, if
mhm,
you've already done, like, gotten to a certain point in the design concept side of, once you pass that concept and you're actually getting the working drawings phase,
mhm,
um, you have things that, like, if they say, well, I decided I didn't want that wall there, I want to change this, it's not an easy fix. And that's what a lot of people think is, well, you just did it on the computer, it's just two lines. But yet there's layers upon layers of design within that. If you change one wall, you've changed the electrical, you've changed the lighting, you've changed the HVAC, you've changed the furniture layout, you've changed, what else is in there? It's just, you've changed a lot. And so you have to change every single file to create this change. It's not a little thing. So there's a reason why a lot of different contractors will have like a boat or an RV or something, but the boat will be called change order. I mean, it's real. That's where a lot of expense comes from. Is when people start changing their mind after that initial phase is done and they go back and forth. That's where a lot of that money comes from. But it's also the ignorance of not knowing what all that changes when it's just two lines to them, and you're like,
right.
no, 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 that was like an hour's worth of work that I just had to change that, or even more hours, because we've already went even further. But the closer you get to build, those changes are huge, and they don't
Hmm.
just happen like that.
Right. It really doesn't.
So that being said, I think that obviously we would love it if everyone hired an interior designer and worked with them, but not everybody can.
Right.
So, if number one, if you're going to work with an interior designer, you need to understand kind of what the scope is. So let's talk about the scope of being working with an interior designer.
Hmm.
So first phase is that initial of getting to know the client, what the client's needs are, and working through the conceptual phase.
Uh-huh.
So residential, commercial, it doesn't matter. You're going to go through a conceptual phase of it and try to break down. That can look, it's according to how big the project could be, but that could last a long time because that's where all of those ideas are starting to come forward. You're going through a bunch of different ideas to start narrowing it down and what really works for the client. You excelled at this. Your conceptual side was phenomenal. So what kind of went through your brain when you met a client, say a residential client, you met a residential client and they started talking about their needs. What kind
Uh-huh.
of went through your brain? Like, what, can you break that down?
Well, my first initial thoughts were, what are we doing? What's the space? What's it for? Does it have a theme? Do they need colors? Themes were very big for me in the early OOs. Themes.
The
I
early
did a lot of
aughts.
stuff. So I think that was a lot of the things in which I would pitch to a client was like it was theme based. But
Mm-hmm.
most of it was centered, of course, on their needs and wants and what they were expecting. So it's so funny now we have Pinterest. Before we, had to dig in
All the
um,
magazines.
the magazines and
Mm-hmm.
not just magazines, books as well, because we thoroughly did the research.
Mm-hmm.
There's some aesthetics that people, I feel like they say these like kitschy words because it makes sense, but I feel like a lot of people don't know the basis of how it started or where it started from. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's what lost in the technology world. Um, you know, they're thinking that, oh, I want like this this dreamy. Like one of them was called, and I'm trying to think of it. They basically called it vampire. This is on TikTok, right? Vampire glam, and it was
Vampire glam.
vampire glam,
I have a
or
vision in my mind.
it's
I'd
like
like to see if I'm close. I'm gonna have to look this up to see if I'm close to see, because words do mean different things to different people.
right, absolutely.
So I could see like vampire glam, the vision in my mind, like I could see a room right now, immediately, just hearing those
Uh-huh.
two words. But it may not be what you're seeing, and it
Right,
may not be what they're. It's definitely probably not what they're
exactly.
seeing.
Exactly. It's
Mm-hmm.
subjective. So a lot of a lot of these, and I'm sure people feel that way too, who are really into fashion design, or who took fashion design,
Mm-hmm.
and they know the timeline. They know the history behind a cloth. They know a history behind a piece, and so and when people just and that's a great thing about creativity and interior design, and things like that, is that you don't have to be black and white. You can mix, and you can be eclectic, and that's fine and
Mm-hmm.
all, but know where stuff come from. Don't just be throwing stuff together and be like, I just feel like the knowledge behind it, and that's what I was just stating. It's like there's a knowledge behind that. There's a purpose, and not just, oh, well, this would be pretty because it's glittery, or this would be pretty because it's textured with this. Then you're like, okay, that's cool and all, but it's good to know, the story, the backstory. I'm always a person
Mm-hmm.
about forethought and having a backstory on certain things, so that it can relate to the member, not member, to the client,
Mm-hmm.
and in conversational pieces. And when someone will come over, or they're hosting, or whoever family, they're proud of the space, um and what it's for. So that's how I tend to do my design, and what
Mm-hmm.
it's based upon. The client's needs come first, and then you think about the function, the functional portion of it, and how cohesive will be as far as for everything, and just it's just not for pretty. It's actually functional and purposeful.
Mm-hmm. And it goes through everything from we'd go in and you'd have to measure out every single space. If they didn't already have, like if it wasn't a newer home and you didn't already have plans, we would have to go in and measure every little thing. And we would have to break down what they had for that room already, especially if it was like a residential. I mean, they're going to have some pieces of furniture are going to follow them. They're not going to just start blank with everything. I mean, that would
Right.
be ridiculous. And some people have that kind of money, but most people do not. So they're going to bring some sort of furniture. So we're measuring the furniture and taking pictures and trying to find pieces that actually coexist with the pieces that they already have and complement them. Not just coexist, but complement and bring out the
Mm.
best. And then we're also looking kind of at a budget because usually in the conceptual side you don't have as fine tune of a budget, but we're looking at obviously if they're on a smaller budget, you're not going to come in and just revamp every little thing. You're going to work with a lot of existing features, and it
Mm.
might be cabinetry that you don't want to, they can't afford to get rid of, and start fresh. So what can we do to that cabinetry to make it better? Obviously, if you have a smaller budget, you can't just rip that out and start over, because that could be make or break kind of thing. But it's using pieces and highlighting pieces that maybe were drab to begin with, but yet we change a couple little things around, all of a sudden drab just became absolutely fabulous and now the key point of the room. So it's little things like that we can start picking up on. But that conceptual side, I always had fun with it because it was the my type A personality started to organize all the pieces, and that's
Uh-huh.
what the next phase, as in kind of starting the construction document side, I really loved that part because it was really starting to organize and put them all together and specify and color code and try to like really kind of organize what was going to be happening there. And you hated that part. You hated that part. It was but it was funny because you didn't like the start of the organization part of it, but you loved the details.
Yeah.
So you went from
Yeah.
beginning to end, and then you kind of blurred out the middle. And I was like all about the organization part of it, and struggled with some of uh the creativity side of it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I think you did really well with the creative side as well.
So we go through conceptual phase, so we get into the contract documents. And the contract documents, that's the part where you have like the blueprints, your CAD drawings, the whole, the more specific designs. We start doing
Hmm.
schedules. So the schedules are like a Excel worksheet of everything from what doors we put into place and what windows, what paint colors, where the
Theme.
furniture goes, the HVAC, the lighting, and when I say HVAC, that's the heating, venting, and cooling. Sometimes we get into the roof design, but interior designers can only do so much. I want to say it is. Uh,
Hmm.
it's been a little bit since I've looked at the specifications, but it is one level up to three, or is it 5,000? 3 or 5,000 square foot. I, I'm like drawing a blank here.
Three, but I think it was pushed when we were in school. They kind
Mm-hmm.
of like rewritten some things where it
Yeah,
was like,
and in
um,
different states are different.
yeah, 5,000 commercial. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, and but different roof designs is we can only do so much for all of that. But we could work with say we wanted like a couple different pitches and things we could work with an
Hmm.
architect or a structural engineer and get that a little bit better, preferably an architect on that side. And
Yeah.
but we those are all the plans that we come up with, and you'll have in these schedules you'll have uh the door. Say you're looking at a door and it'll be left swing, right swing. um it's showing what hinges, what doorknob we picked out, what all the whole 9 yards, how far it is off the wall. Like it'll show you everything on these schedules. And
Hmm.
then whenever you looked at furniture, in a specification sheet, you would see, the furniture would have a tag name, and on the plan, it would have that tag name. But yet, in the specification binder, it would have the same tag name to kind of correspond,
Yeah.
and then it would break down the manufacturer, like the structure of the piece, but then it would also have whatever fabric we chose on it. All this
Hmm.
information is in there. So the minute you change, say, I just want to change that fabric,
Oh.
then that wasn't a huge deal unless you've already ordered it, because a lot of these things you have to order a long time in advance. And then because a lot of them don't even get made until you order. And so we'd have to order, quite a bit in advance. But if you change that piece of fabric before it was ordered and everything, that wasn't a huge deal. But if you changed, a piece of that furniture and the fabric, and then changed it from a left sectional to a right sectional, or, something like that, you're adding quite a bit because you got to change it there and you got to change it on the floor plan. Um, and so it adds a little bit. It's not a huge deal, but it does add time, and time is money. Um, Back in the day, we were charging like 125 an hour in Mississippi. In Atlanta, we were charging about 175, um, and that was fairly low. That was fairly low. It was pretty, pretty normal, but to low side. Um, and so if you're looking at like budget wise, and you're constantly adding in someone to do an hour's worth of work, change orders. on these drawings, it adds a little bit. But as we were talking earlier, the working in all the different layers really added quite a bit, because when you're working in computer aided drafting or CAD, you've got the main floor plan,
Mhm.
and then every plan sheet is another layer. So we've got for our listeners, because obviously me and you know it, but for our
Right.
listeners, you have the basic plan, and then say you have an electrical plan, and then you have the lighting plan, and then you have um,
Plan-
you know plumbing plan, the furniture plan, all of it, and paint plan or finishes. That all has it's all separate plans. So to do one is show one. If you make a change at the base level, it changes it on every single sheet after that.
Yes.
And that's what a lot of people didn't really get. And so that the contract document was all about those little details, because you had to organize it at first, and then you had to really break down and make sure everything was cohesive. And you know, I don't think that they're really computer aided drafting added a bit of space, I guess,
Mhm.
between the designer and the actual design. And we see this a lot with, so our family construction business did a lot with civil engineering.
Mhm.
And when you looked at a lot of the plans, and you had to, because in your mind, whenever you're bidding these, you have to build it in your mind, how you would build it in real life. And we would find so many holes, because, and it would really be more, my brother, he was the estimator, and
Mhm.
he would find so many holes in the design, because the designer, whoever designed those drawings, didn't put themselves in that space and build it themselves. So they're
Mhm.
getting all these little breaks and where things don't line up. And that's what you have to be really careful about the designs, because if you say, well, it looks nice on paper,
Right.
but yet it doesn't work in real world, then you're working against yourself and your client, and that you're neither one of you are going to go any very far with that at all. So to go back and to make sure your design is as cohesive as possible, it makes sense on every page, every layer. It is it's it's kind of overwhelming sometimes. It's according to how big the project is, but the more eyes you have on it, the better. But sometimes you have to be careful with that many eyes on it, because things do get
Yeah.
missed. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. How many different group projects did you have in school that where you're like, okay,
Oh my
I could have done
gosh.
this better myself?
Exactly. I believe it was probably our last quarter ever
Mm-hmm.
for the 4 years I was there, and we had. I think he was in that. No, you weren't in the class. It was what was the name of that class? Portfolio.
You had a
Cause
group
like
project in portfolio.
yeah. Um remember when we had to interview um persons in the industry? That was the group project.
Oh, okay, okay. Good, because you were interviewing different ones. Okay, I got
Yeah.
you.
And I forgot her name at the time, but she was over the interior design department. She was the dean over the interior design department, and
That was
she,
Lori. Yeah.
yeah, her. So I was in a group. You helped me out by getting an interview with your boss at the time,
Mm-hmm.
when you was doing your internship. So that was cool, but it was like a lot of people was focusing on their projects to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that their portfolio stuff was done, not the actual class we were in.
Yeah.
So anytime you have to like we literally met one time, and that was during when we were scouting out trying to find um someone that was in the field. They gave us like a list of people or a list of companies that we can ask. kind of
Mm-hmm.
give us an idea, and then we kind of like, um, you know, got their say of whatever. Um, so of course there's always that one person that does everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then, people put their name on it
Yeah.
and say, well, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. So my portion of it was the video portion. And then um, it was two of them that actually went up and did a presentation for it. So the video, for some reason, just didn't work out well. I tried and tried and tried, but everything else I did, the slideshow, don't you know, she gave me a C. She gave me like, and everybody else got like B's and A's
Yeah.
because
Lori definitely had her favorites. Yeah.
so yeah. And I took that very personally because it was like I worked really hard for it, and they just did they just went up there and started talking about the project that the slideshow I put together
Mm-hmm.
that was on PowerPoint, and
Yeah.
just basically repeating everything that was on it.
Yeah. But
She
you
gave
you did
was
the work on the design on the video, but yet you didn't do part of the presentation, and therefore in her eyes they did it and you didn't.
all I'm saying is it was unfair, and it
Yeah.
wasn't the only time she was unfair to me.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
um we'll talk about that another time.
Yeah.
But anyway, uh, she that's yeah, and I was like, and everybody else, they had their grades or whatever, and then she
Mm-hmm.
was like, and I didn't talk, I didn't say anything, and something went awry with the PowerPoint. Like the video was upside down or something happened. I can't remember, and I thought I fixed it because we had the remember where we would check out like the photography stuff, like the tech. It was on the second floor.
Yeah.
It was a room where you can like sign out and get like equipment and stuff.
Yeah.
So I had one of them help me because I was like pulling out my hair. I had about 8 different breakdowns
Group
because
projects will
it's
do
like,
that to you. Yes.
oh my gosh, how many
Yeah.
breakdowns have you had? Let's talk about that another time. And let's
Oh.
go about it now.
Well, you talk about group projects, and it was advanced commercial,
Okay.
and it was just the three. There was three of us, and the me and another girl weren't having to work as much. One girl was having to like, she had a realtor business or something, so she was working a lot. Well, we were fine with that. I mean, you as long as you're getting down your points and stuff, we're fine. Well, we had been working like all day, and then this other girl was supposed to, after she was done with working, she was supposed to show up at my apartment, and we were going to like keep working and
Hmm.
start to bring in her stuff so we could start getting it all together. Well, time comes, she doesn't show up, and then she calls and she's like, well, I'm tired and I'm cooking, and why don't y'all just come over here and we'll do it? And we're like, well, we're already set up. Like, the plan
Right.
was for you to come here. Like, this is what we're gonna do. She started yelling at me like I was a little child, and
Mm,
I
that's
I lost it on her. I don't lose it very often, but I lost it on her. And the next day, like, we just knew that we would not be able to work with her because she sent us one of the reasons like we why we lost it is like one of the plans that she sent us, the walls weren't even like hooked together.
I remember you told me
Yeah.
about that.
So Excel had to go through and just like revamp the whole drawing. And we had a little blowout. We had a blowout. And me and the other girl that I was, had been working with really well that whole day, we went up to the teacher and we were like, this is not going to happen. Like, this is
Yeah.
not a healthy working environment. And he was like, he was really chill about it. Didn't go into dramatics and stuff. And me and the girl that was working with, we were like, look, we work really well together. We would like to continue working together if that's okay with you. And the girl who, like, because she had already, like, got with him before we even got to class. And she was like, this is not going to work. I am not working with these people. So me and my partner was like, okay, we're going to come in there calm. We're going to show them what we had. We're going to tell them the issues that we were having, and we're going to see if we could work together. If we can't work together, we'll do it individually. But if we can work together, that'd be great. And she goes, I don't care if they work together, but they can't use any of my stuff. And we laughed. I was like, oh, we shouldn't be laughing. But we laughed because we were like, we can't use any of her stuff anyways.
Right.
It was crazy. But yeah, the group projects would definitely wear you down. And I mean, I think that's across the board with any profession is a group project.
Right.
Working with other people for a common goal. But the thing is, if you don't have a common goal, that's where, the throwdowns can happen. But kind of back to our interior design side of everything is that, when we are working on group projects to make these things happen, a lot can get done a lot faster, but you have to have somebody going back through and keeping order to make sure everything's still cohesive, because you are going to have different styles. You'll miss certain things, like, okay, well, I got this part, somebody else will get this part. Well, if somebody else doesn't get that part, then you've got a gap in the design. So that's part of the contract documents. And that is the heavy duty work. But a lot happens in that conceptual side. And so the last 10 to 20% is usually the decor side, that last little push to kind of get everything put together. What you can work with your interior designer is if you ask them how involved do they want to be? How involved does the client want you to be? Because once those contract documents are complete and to the client, technically the interior designer's job is done. But like we were talking about earlier, you really want that kind of cohesiveness through the whole project. So if that interior designer can be involved during the construction management side of it, sometimes they could work as a construction manager, it's according to their background. But to have them be able to be somewhat involved, walkthroughs, trying to make sure that things that the contractor is doing is living up to the design, because there might be questions in the construction documents that they maybe weren't as clear on, that the contractor took one way, because we saw that a lot where maybe another designer or the architect wasn't quite clear on something. We had to come back in and kind of give like hey, this is what we want, and so we work with the contractors like, okay, this is, maybe it wasn't as clear on the design, but this is what we're wanting. And so we would have to kind of give them more clarification on that side. And if we never did that walkthrough, then the client would not be happy because they did not get what we had envisioned in our mind, and what we kind of threw at them. So working with that contractor, and then the whole installation part. I loved installation day. It was nerve-wracking, but we had a few clients where they wanted us to, like, once everything was in there, we got to, like, just put it all together. And it's nerve-wracking because you got, like, okay, this piece goes over here. We tag this one. Is this the correct chair? Is this the correct fabric that goes on this chair?
Right.
Is it installed the way it's supposed to be? Because if you've got one stripe going this way and one stripe going this way, then it's not right. So we had some of that happen, and we can kind of like work through those ordeals, pretty swiftly if we know what's going on, and we have we've already checked over these things before we get there. But when we get there, it's like a madhouse. I mean, you've got plastic flying and cardboard flying and vacuum cleaners and nail guns, and getting all these little things done, little paint touch ups and things like that. But when it's done, like you'll have like 3 days of installation. But when it's done, the client can really honestly see it.
Right.
Whether if we're not there, then they are looking at all this stuff and they get overwhelmed and it ends up staying like in a pile. And they'll go through a little bit and then it ends up like totally not where the design was
It's
supposed to go.
silly.
Yeah.
Right. Very
Like we
sassy
were talking
today.
about that restaurant client that you had done all this work on, and the last 2 weeks of it, they flipped some things and then made it to where we couldn't even use it in a portfolio because the design wasn't anywhere near what you had wanted. It was that last little bit of polish on it that kind of just took it all away. But it's something that we have to look at. We had like a few clients. um the priest the priest was very open to interior design. He
Mm-hmm.
understood he understood the value, and he understood the artistic freedom, and
Mm-hmm.
then also the technical and the budget side. He was one of those dream clients where you're just like, I want more of. and
Right.
and several years later, he sold one of the houses that we had talked about because we had worked with him on several different projects. But one of the houses we did, and he called me and he said, I ended up having to sell that home and I hated to get rid of it. But I do think it sold so quickly and so above what I had planned on getting out of it because of the interior design work that you did. And I wanted to thank you for that. And that was one of
Yeah.
those moments where I'm like, I did my job so good.
Yeah.
And it was just, we loved that. We love getting that kind of feedback. And for a client to give you that much trust and know that you're going to watch their budget to where they need it to be, get the design and quality that they want,
Mm-hmm.
and then have their overall essence of what they wanted is there, no matter what their budget is. And those clients are few and far between because you had a lot of the ones that would micromanage, and their brother, sister, cousin worked over at some paint store and they said that you shouldn't do this or you should do this, and you're like, why did you even call me?
Right.
Like, you don't want me. You want
Right.
something free from your cousin's brother, whatever. And it gets exhausting, and you're just like, yeah. Or you have the ones that when you get the contract, because we had this a lot, is all of the design competitions were happening on HGTV, and everyone would
Mm-hmm.
come in with these big fancy boards. And we had a few people call us and be like, I want you to come up with 3 different designs and then I'll pick which, design. And you're like, okay, sure. It's going to be about, 5 hours per design, and it's
Right.
$300 a board. And they're like, I'm not paying for that. And I'm like, well, I'm not. So it was just, you would, yeah, you'd see like this deer in headlights. Like they had no idea that that's not real world at all. Like HGTV design competitions are in no way real world. Things don't happen that quick. They don't happen that seamlessly, I guess. And a week for a design thing is just not happening. Like it's not. So it amazed me how quickly people thought that things should get done. It really did amaze me, because you're talking about a lead time on a couch getting built and with fabric put on it. You're talking like 14 weeks back then. Now
Mm-hmm.
it might have changed, especially with all of the different imports and things coming in, but it's like there's no way you can do this in a week. And then for every board to be done, it's like every single board would cost at least $300 for us to even make. Like we didn't make money on it. That was just
Right.
time and materials to put on the board.
Mm-hmm.
And that came out of our pocket, and people would think that we're supposed to do that with every single one. And I was like, I think I may have done like 4 boards for all the years that we were in business, because
Mm-hmm.
nobody was going to pay for that. And mostly the times that you do boards for like those design boards is more for commercial because you're having to present it to multiple people. But for residential, you're getting like a pin board. Like it's you may have like the fabric and all the stuff like pinned up on a board, but it's definitely not like where you're gonna it's permanent because a residential is gonna be a lot more fluid because that's somebody's personal zone and they're gonna have a lot more input than a commercial aspect where it is a fixed kind of design and all they just have to do is approve the budget and the overall design and then let you go for it. So
Yeah.
it was go ahead.
No, I was just thinking, I was concurring everything that you just stated. Um, and it's not just the furniture. If it's custom, if you want custom furniture, yes, it takes time. My
Mm-hmm.
couch took 5 weeks. The
Mm-hmm.
couch I bought from where did I get that couch from? Joybird. It took
Mm-hmm.
5 weeks to
Yeah.
get here.
Yeah.
And there's permits, of course, if you're expanding your home or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. If even down to if you want to uh, chop down a tree, you can you need
Yeah.
a permit. Depending
Mm-hmm.
on the tree. So all of this takes time. Windows.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if they're custom, all of this takes time and effort and work, and sometimes the orders aren't right, and especially if you want kind of like a stone flooring or stone countertops.
Yeah.
That takes the longest. I think that's probably like the longest thing most people
Mm-hmm.
wait for if it's not
Yeah.
already in house. But if it's something, all that Carrera you ordered, how long did that take?
Oh
Because they had
gosh.
it
Mm-hmm.
from like Italy or
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah, and it was hand cut uh mosaic tile border and it was $125 a foot. I remember because I had to buy a foot to put on one of the boards. And because they were not handing that over for free, not even a single piece. And yeah, we had to get that, but oh gosh, we waited for a while. But I bought windows for my own home, um, and I waited 120 days to have them to come in, and then I had to wait for them to be installed. So it was, I mean, a week is not like we're not HGTV. We don't have the pull that But if you go back and you look at a lot of those after shows, they talk about the quality of a lot of these homes that were done in like a week or 2 weeks, and you're just like, yeah, that's the reason,
Yeah,
because it was
yeah,
like patched up and band-aided, that the quality was not there. You got to look for a day while they filmed, and then that was it. So it's what do you really want? And one thing that we'd always tell our clients, because yeah, we didn't have Pinterest back then, and but we did have magazines, and so we
right.
would give them like a binder with like sheet protectors in there, and we're like, rip out whatever you think you like. And I don't care if you like the mirror in this, or you just like this picture, you don't know why. Okay, it's put it in there, and that way we could kind of have like a visual language with them.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about earlier about the words meaning something completely different to different people. But if you have that picture, you've got like an idea of what they're really wanting.
Right.
And talking about budgets and stuff, we worked with the various ones. We had some that had really high budgets, and then we had some that were just like, hey, I really want this look, but I don't have, any
Right.
money to really put into this. This is what I own already. This is what I want it to look like. How can I make that happen? And we give them pointers on, okay, you may not be able to get the whole thing right now, but start looking for these pieces to put in there. So,
Mm-hmm.
it may take them a few years to actually get the look that they want, but eventually it'll get there. And we would give them like a shopping list to kind of, this is stuff you need to look for. And
Yeah.
and this is the color palette you need to kind of like keep everything within, and that way it stays a cohesive design. And but the budgets, we would try to tell, we can give you the essence of what you're looking for no matter the budget. And a lot of people don't really understand how that could be. And it's like, well,
Mm-hmm.
I had two different clients at the same time, residential. They were both doing bedrooms. They both wanted this kind of powdery blue, tan, gold look. It was kind of popular then, but
Uh-huh.
it wasn't a theme like it was
Okay.
on a lot of different uh, aspects in the, I guess, in the teen years, going into the teen years.
Oh,
But they both, I honestly, I could have taken everything from one client and rolled it over to the second client because they
oh yeah.
wanted, it was so similar. It was so similar.
Right.
And they didn't know each other. I could have honestly taken the same fabrics, the same design, and rolled it over into that other one. But I
Mm-hmm.
made it a point to be completely different with it and
Mm-hmm.
really pull out the essence of each couple because each couple, their personalities were completely different,
Yeah.
but what they were saying was really similar. So I had to kind of pull out two different designs, what really could have been one. And I could have saved myself time and money on that, but I made sure that they had a room that was specific to them. And they were pretty similar in budgets, but yet I had one that was a little more like eagle eye on some things, and one that was just a little more artsy. So she was very much like, let's just go for it. And to see the difference between the two at the end was really interesting. But it was, I could have done the same room for probably half the cost
Mm.
for another client, and you know, still had the same essence.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, to make people understand that no, you may not get the architectural digest, uh,
Right.
design quality where, these are heirloom pieces and all of this. It may not be that. If you got a
Mm-hmm.
$1,000 budget, you're not going to get that. But if you got
Right.
$1,000 budget and you just want the essence of what that room is, you could totally do that. You were fantastic at that. Like you could do the budget design so well.
Well, yeah, more consultant where we were doing consulting work. I remember we had
Hmm.
one woman, and she had what kind of dog she had? She had like a Dobermans or something.
Oh
I
yeah,
wanted,
she was
I,
fantastic. Yeah.
yeah, she was really
Hmm.
nice, and it was definitely one of those um just really like passionate outspoken people person, and it was like you could tell that she would be fun to hang out with. She was
Hmm.
but it was a woman, she said that she knew, and like there was some type of fraud thing going on with the other woman, like identity. I forgot her name. But like she was having issues with this woman stealing her identity, but she knew who it was, and I was like, I've never in my life would have thought that, that she was just, I don't know, it was like, I know she was probably from the South, but honestly, she had the mentality of some woman that you would think lived in Queens, New York. Just like her mentality of stuff. That
Uh-huh.
even sense. Like it was just a little chaotic, a little fun. But and then she had like sons or something. She was fun. You remember who I'm talking about?
No, I thought
She
I
had
knew, but now I don't.
no, no. She had a short, dark hair, but she had um it wasn't Dobermans, it was Chihuahuas. I
I
don't
say
know,
the
but
one with Dobermans in Ocean Springs. She was a single
Ocean.
woman with
Hmm.
with really short hair.
Yeah, okay, we talking about the same person. Dark, short hair. Mhm. Like she was a nurse or something.
Cause
She
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 she has the one that had like five Dobermans and like her living room had like five different crates in it. But none of this can go in the.
okay, so I guess they rented a house or had a house, and then like their house that was closest to the water was being renovated, and we went in and like picked up all her like paints and stuff, and she wanted a bar.
You had her. That was your client. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. You had her. Yeah. Because I was
yes,
like, that wasn't Miss Julie. But yeah, she made an
we
impact. Yeah. But
yeah.
she. What were we talking about? How did we get on this?
We were just talking about clients, and I was just
Oh.
saying,
Okay.
I digress. But you go on.
The okay, I'd like for you to talk about different clients that you had that dealt with a budget. That you gave them the ideas and the design that they wanted, but yet on the budget that they had. Because
Okay, so I
you would
handle
take
the
yeah, I don't know where you would get a lot of this stuff that you would get. Like you would find things and dig and get the same look and the same essence of their, the conceptual stuff that they were looking for, but yet it was so in budget that they were so happy with it that because you gave them what they wanted because you really dug in and like you found it. I don't know where you found all this stuff, but you would find it.
yeah, Google was my friend at the time. We were so limited due to the hurricane and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and so it was that, and of course you were stockpiled with like magazines and fabrics, and you had your own little showroom. We
Mm-hmm.
did a lot of
We had to though because we weren't in Atlanta or even New Orleans, and all of these vendors would not come to Mississippi. So you had to, especially after Hurricane Katrina, we had to like
yeah,
really pile up that resource library.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they finally start to trickle in, you had a brief relationship with a vendor.
Mm-hmm.
um and and then we also would be able to go to Mobile and go to like what was
Mm-hmm.
called Door Tile or whatever, that big warehouse place
The
at
yeah, ProSource and Dolltown. Yeah.
stores.
Uh-huh. Yeah. They were
Yeah,
great. They were great. Yeah.
yeah, the whole team,
Mm-hmm.
everybody. Um, but yeah, it was really cool. And I had thoroughly enjoyed working with you. Like it was fun. It was fun always.
Mm-hmm.
Like even when we were at our serious times, it was always fun.
Yeah.
Um, so
Oh,
we
I
worked
loved
really
working with
well.
you too. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, and it's fun. It's funny because like even though we were friends, I will always try to tell myself, yes, this is your friend, but you came here to do a job, okay?
Mm-hmm. I
And
know.
so,
Yeah, but we worked really well with that because I think, and not many people can, but it was that
right,
we had that line. Okay, we're friends. We're working together on this. Ever so
right,
often, I had to be the boss.
right,
But
right,
other than that, it was we were working together on these
right.
projects. So I think that
And it was,
was.
yeah. And I know that I could get off track. And so I know you kind of like, push me on to that. I think the like you said, like I'm still very detail oriented, and so I will focus and make sure things are perfect. And you'll be like, we can't build the client all of this. You
Yeah.
need to move on. We need to do this other stuff. You like keep me on dial where I need to be. So
Yeah, but at the
yeah,
same time, you loosened me up to be able to like, no, what if we did this and what if we did that, and then it became exciting because you loosened me up where I was like dialing you in. So I think it was a great relationship because we do have strengths and weaknesses, and those are if you don't have a team that is kind of has the best chemistry together,
hmm
then you're not going to get the best out of it. And if you look like if you someone's constantly trying to be the star, and putting others down, then you're not going to grow from there either. But it was eye opening to see sometimes people would come in and you're like, oh, this is not going to work. But me and you would always like be on those planes to be able to. We had the client's best interest at heart, and it didn't really matter our own interior design style.
right,
It was
exactly,
all about the client. And I think
exactly,
whenever you look at a lot of interior designers, when I moved back after college, and I came down and opened up the interior design firm, I was kind of, it was a little bit of a culture shock coming back because
Mm,
up in Atlanta, there was so many different clients
right.
and from all walks of life. And when you
Right.
came back here, the people who would hire interior designers would almost hire them because of the status that that person held, and it didn't matter what the client's design eye was for. It was about what the designer wanted to kind of have a
Right.
signature. And I didn't have a
Right.
signature because I
Mm,
if I'm going to be designing your house, I don't need to be anywhere in your house. Like you
right.
shouldn't see me when you look at your, your bedroom or your kitchen. That's yours.
Yeah.
It needs to have the client stamp all over it, not the
Yeah.
designers. And that mentality did not go well down here at first. And it was almost like they would recycle designers
Mm,
because of the status
right.
and trying to break into that in certain aspects of the this industry in this region. It was kind of like, oh, that's the new girl. um,
Right. Oh yeah.
but yeah, I didn't have the
New kid
status
on the block.
level. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's so funny that you mentioned that because it clicked in my memory because around that time, you know, there was Oprah using Nate, I forgot his last name, and then there was
Burkus.
Candace
Yeah.
Candace Bergens. What was her name? Um, she was like
Oh,
Canadian, but
Olson.
her work.
Olson.
Oh, was it Candace Olsen? Because that sounds political. That it was Candace. Uh, what was her name?
Oh, you're talking about the blonde. I thought it was Olson.
Yeah, is it Olsen? Do they have the same name? That is crazy.
No, you're talking about Candace Owens.
Okay, Olsen. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
Candace Olson. Yeah, Candace Olson. She was big at the time.
Yeah,
Um,
but I mean, that's what people was looking for. Like
yeah.
they wanted that,
Mm-hmm.
regardless. When they looked at HGTV, it was like, I want you to design everything, and I want to love it, and I want to pay this much, and this is what I want. But
Mm-hmm.
that's like trying to find the perfect man out of a well, we don't have phone books anymore, but that's like trying to
Yeah.
find
Well,
someone that you know
that was
it
designed
takes
for
work,
somebody else.
right?
Uh huh. Yeah, that's trying to find a husband that was designed for somebody else. Once you start saying, I want what they have designed on, like already, then you're trying to put somebody else's dress on. Like it doesn't,
Right.
may not fit you. It may not fit you. Uh huh. So you have to really make it, you know. I love the color green. I adore the color green.
Yes.
Do I wear green? No. No. Because green looks horrible on me. It makes me look gray and sick. And if it is, but now bright greens do okay. But like those lighter greens, those softer greens,
Hmm.
no, it's not going to be around me. It's not even in my spaces. Because I do
Uh,
have some greens in my own spaces, but if you're in that space all the time, you're gonna feel like that. So I don't want to look in the mirror and see myself looking all crazy and sick.
right.
So it's like, with some people, like our friend Elle, greens look
Hmm.
fabulous on her. Her skin tone is made for greens, but
Yeah.
and her home could have all of that in it, but mine cannot. Mine can't. And so it was like, you may love the look, but is it for you? No,
Mm.
may not be. So it's trying to find that right look, right fit for you,
Right.
and then working with someone who can bring that out.
Hmm.
And it may not be, $100,000 project. It may be, well, you got $1,500. What can you do with that? I would find an interior designer that would fit my budget and be like, look, what can you give me? Because we've worked with each other. I'll be stuck on something that's like a personal design for me, and I'm like, I don't know what to do right here, because I'm too much
Right.
in the weeds. And so I call on my designer friends to be like, give me some ideas. Because I don't know what to do with this wall. you know, this space is just not working for me. And I don't know how to make it work with the budget I have. You know, we get bogged down too in the weeds, especially if it's our own weeds, So it's
Right.
like getting that fresh take on a look is something I think that we have to be open to. So
Mhm.
everybody needs a little bit of help. But what if I went in, I didn't know anything about interior design, and I went in and I said, you know what? I want this wall gone. And I took a hammer and I started hammering through it. And then I hit a water line.
Right.
You're
Or
talking
let.
like thousands and thousands of dollars damage,
Mhm.
that you have to now fix, and you have nothing to show for it. Other than, you got your demons out whenever you were demolishing that
Right.
wall. But other than that, you got, nothing else to show for it. But an interior designer could have looked at that and be like, that wall can't go anywhere. It's a wet wall. Or it could go somewhere, but you're going to be spending a whole lot more money than you got to move that. So it's
Yeah.
it's the interior designer could save you a lot of money,
Mhm.
and they could point you in the right direction. Even if you just had a consultation with one, and consultations are not free, so you need to go ahead and plan on that.
Right.
I don't. There's so many that they would think that consultation's free. Why
Right.
in the world did they get a bill? I'm like, you signed a contract. Just, there's a reason. That's not free. But usually during that time, we could be like, okay, look for this, try this. No, you can't do this, and we can point you in a pretty good direction.
Mhm.
And then you've only paid for what, 2-3 hours, and back in the day, that would have been about $300. You got $1,000 budget. This person just gave you most of the work, and then you take their stuff, and then you move on from there.
Mhm.
So it's I can think that's pretty much like
The
the
gist of
idea
it.
behind the gist of everything. Thank you for listening to our episode today. As you can see, we get a little bit riled up whenever it comes to the interior design industry, what we've had to deal with, what we find absolutely so much fun. We have truly enjoyed this conversation, and we hope you did too. If you have any questions, comments, please leave them below. We would love to hear from you, especially on the question side. I know that we probably brought up some things that maybe we didn't clarify for the regular person who's not in the industry. So if you've got any kind of questions that we can clarify, please let us know. We've got some really great episodes coming up, some good conversations. So please subscribe and like this video to share it out to anybody else. And then you can find us at theeffervescenthome.com. That's the blog. And then our Instagram is at the.effervescent.home. And our YouTube channel is The Effervescent Home. If you look up any of those, you'll be able to find us, connect with us, like, subscribe, do all the things. And we can't wait to hear from you soon. Bye.